I'm trying to get harder and tougher mentally and physically every day of my life.
You're either the growth mindset or you're the fixed mindset.
If you're trying to be the best, you need to look at who the best is and see what they do.
Relentless pursuit of progress.
There's a difference between the best and the rest.
Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast.
Champions are built in the mind first.
Where we interview scientists, world champions, doctors, and experts in just about every area of health and fitness.
What do you care enough about? What are you fascinated enough about to go so deep and learn so much that you'll know more about it than anyone else?
And now, here's your host, Michael Cazayoux.
Welcome back. This is Michael Cazayoux, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. Today, I am welcomed by Molly Galbraith. Molly is the co-founder and owner of a company called Girls Gone Strong. Girls Gone Strong is an online training company dedicated to helping women fall deeper in love with their own bodies and to help them make decisions that are for them and not for those around them, not for society, making decisions for their own health, their own lives that are for them. They do online training programs, including certifications for coaching women. And they are the only company in the world that have a comprehensive training certification for women by women. On this show, we talk about the Facebook post that she made that changed her life in 2016. It reached 440 million people. And this is a great story. And it really highlights, I think, a lot about Molly's personal health and fitness journey, but also what Girls Gone Strong is all about. How she transitioned from a hardcore competitor to a much more relaxed way of fitness. This is something that I can definitely relate to, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to as well. Going from having very concrete, intense goals based on achievement to, maybe your goals have just changed either temporarily or permanently, and how we deal with those changes, how we deal with the identity changes, the changes in how other people view us. It can be really challenging. And so we talk about her experience with that. We talk about how to actually get to know yourself and your worth in the world. And what I love about Molly is that she has very concrete advice based on her lived experience. So she knows the science, she's read the books, but she most importantly has lived this stuff for many, many years. And so when she's speaking, you can just, I think you can just trust a little bit more because you know that she's been through what she's talking about. We talk about how to change the way that you think. So one thing she's really big on is helping people to become more aware of what's going on in between their heads. And she has some very tactical advice for how to change our internal dialogue. We talk about why coaching might be one of the biggest opportunities in the world for you right now, how to overcome fear and something specifically called the fear setting exercise, and how to build confidence in your skills and abilities. Again, Molly is one of the biggest badasses I've ever had on this show. Her story is super powerful. She's very passionate about what she's up to in the world. And she has just very clear advice for how we can all live better lives based on her own lived experience. So without further ado, please help me welcome Molly Galbraith. This episode is also brought to you by Jumbo CBD. If you're not already on the CBD train, then I'm sure you've at least heard of it before, because many people thought in the beginning that this was just a legal way to get high. And unfortunately for some of you, you can't get high on CBD. You can try, but you can't get high on it. On the other hand, it can help you sleep better. It can reduce stress and anxiety. It can be huge for pain relief and reducing inflammation. personally, I've had knee pain for about 5 years now, and I haven't been able to figure out a way to get rid of it. I haven't figured out the root cause. I've worked with PTs and chiropractors, and I just haven't been able to eradicate it. So I have used some pain relieving techniques, and this is one of them. I've used Jumbo's extra strength 200 milligram balm, and it absolutely does not completely take the pain away, but it makes it manageable. It allows me to get into a deeper squat. It allows me to walk around and just go about my daily activities without feeling much pain at all. And whether that's placebo or not, I really don't care, because I just don't feel like I'm in as much pain. I've also used their sprays, and there's a really subtle relaxing effect to the sprays. So that's pretty great. It's helpful for sleep and reduces a little bit of like a feeling of tension in my chest, which I often call anxiety. It's great for athletes and recovery. And some specifics, and what sets Jumbo apart is that they have 100% natural ingredients, full spectrum CBD sourced from Colorado and Oregon. They have CO2 extracted oils that are, I think, safer. They have therapeutic grade essential oils in a lot of their products, third-party lab tested, so it's legit. And they're one of the first CBD companies to post their lab results publicly. I also know the owners of this company very well. They're very close friends of mine, and I trust them deeply. Again, my favorite product of theirs is the 200 milligram extra strength balm. I've also used the sprays, but they also have drops and butters or ghee. I think ghee is like a butter type thing. So there's all sorts of different products, and they're offering you 15% off of anything in their store. And you can get access to that by going to jumbocbd.com and use the code BRUTE in all caps. That's BRUTE in all caps. A couple more things. So a huge plus of their sprays and drops is that they use MCT oil. So since CBD is a fat soluble molecule, it binds with this oil and allows for much more rapid and effective absorption of the actual CBD. It also has essential oils that add flavor, and they bring their own proven health benefits as well. With the Muscle Bomb, since they use ghee as the base, again, ghee is like a butter type thing, the CBD is binding with the ghee fat, and it's able to be carried all the way to the bones. Ghee itself has amazing topical healing properties, and when CBD is added, the results can be pretty profound. So again, you can get access to this discount, 15% off of all of their products, by going to jumbocbd.com and enter the code BRUTE, all caps, at checkout. Go get them. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's been about, I think, 8 months since I've seen you. And I've just, with so much pleasure, watched what you and Casey are up to. It is awesome. The consistent message of body positivity and just empowering women to make decisions for themselves rather than what they think they should be doing is so refreshing and inspiring. So I'm pumped to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait to get started.
So I think a good place to start, and a really awesome way to kind of build your credibility up for the listeners, is with the post that you made on January 1st, 2016. So you made a post on Facebook that I think got viewed or whatever over 11 million times. And it was picked up by ABC and Kentucky News and all of these major websites. So can you set the backdrop a little bit? Like, what was going on in your life? What inspired this post, and what was the post actually?
Yeah, I love that. So I got started or interested in fitness in 2004. So as a junior in college, I was 19 years old. I was absolutely just kind of fed up with the way that I felt in my body, the way that my body looked, this lack of control that I felt like I had over the way that I felt. So that kind of kickstarted my fitness journey in 2004. So I've been in health and fitness now for almost 16 years. And in 2016, when that post happened, I had been on this kind of journey of wanting to feel as though I was worthy regardless of how my body looked and felt. Because I think there's so many great things that fitness does for us, But I kept finding myself in this trap of, well, I need to get leaner. And then it's like when I couldn't get leaner, it's like I need to get stronger. And I kept thinking that I had found the next thing that would make me feel good or comfortable or worthy. That trap of like, when I lose 15 pounds, when I have a flat stomach, when I can deadlift 400 pounds, when I can do these things, then I will feel. And so I had been kind of pulled myself away from that for a few years. And I was walking down the beach end of 2015 with my partner, Casey. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm so sick of before and after pictures. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, there isn't a before and after. I just want a picture of like, what does my body look like today on a Tuesday in December of 2015? And so I wanted to write a post about that. And so he took a picture of me, and I kind of forgot about the post. We were in Costa Rica at the time, and we were back home in Nebraska visiting his family. And I was like, ooh, I haven't posted that picture yet. I'm going to write up this post. And so I started writing about it, and just like, this is my body. This is not a before picture. This is not an after picture. This is just what my body looks like on a random Tuesday in December of 2015. And I talked a little bit about my journey, how I had abused my body with intense exercise and lack of food and, feeling not good enough. And I got to the end of writing the caption, and I was like, what's the hook? It's missing a thing. Like, what is the point of this? Why am I posting this? And I was like, oh shit. It's New Year's Day, and I didn't make a resolution this year to change the way that my body looks. And I was like, That's the thing. And so I just realized, like, that's the thing, like, holy cow. And I hadn't even realized it. So it's very organic, the way that it kind of happened. So I was like, when you make a post, you're like, oh, this will probably resonate with people. It'll probably do well. I posted it, and it started like, and I started seeing all of these kind of like likes and comments and stuff come in, and I hit refresh, and it's like within a minute, it's like, 300 likes. And I'm like, hold on, what's going on? And then I hit refresh again, and it's like 1,000 likes. And I'm like, hold on, like rubbing my eyes, like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing here? And I was like, oh my gosh, I think this thing's going viral. So it ended up, from my page alone, reaching over 12 million people. So, reach, Jeez. Right? It's like 150,000 likes or something, reached 12 million people. And then worldwide, it ended up reaching 440 million people.
What?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's like 5% of the world's population or something, just bananas like that. So it was
That's
picked
great.
up by like all those amazing people, People Magazine and Cosmopolitan and Ashton Kutcher and Zooey Deschanel and all these kinds of things. And what was super interesting for me was that everybody took from it like the thing that resonated with them the most. So I talked about a bunch of different things. Lil Wayne picked it up. Like, there's all kinds of just like wild people, but people took from it whatever the thing was that resonated with them the most. So I talked about a lot of different topics that people would say, I love this. I have Hashimoto's too. I love this. I have PCOS too. I love this. My dad died too. They would like read it and just see it through. It was a fascinating kind of just like human experiment, because everybody saw it through the lens of whatever they felt like they connected with me on. So that was really cool. It reached 440 million people. It started out really positive because it was everybody that knew me.
Right. And
then it became a little bit like still positive because it was like friends of people who knew me. But then as it started to kind of go out of the GGS bubble, it was, there were some really horrifying comments and assumptions and stuff that I got. So it was, it was a super, very surreal experience to have People Magazine call you and want to, feature you, or, see Lil Wayne share your picture on Facebook and stuff.
Okay, wait, what did Lil Wayne, what did he have to say about this?
Okay, well, so first of all, I think he just said labels can be frustrating, because in the post, I talked about how my body had literally been called too fat, too thin, too manly, too muscular, too whatever, all in the same week. And so part of the gist was like, it doesn't, like, I no longer care what other people think about my body, because the only person whose opinion matters is me. Mm-hmm. And so I feel good. So I'm not making a resolution to change the way that my body looks. And this is a type of freedom I didn't think I'd ever experience. And it feels really good. So his was, and was he sharing it or was his team sharing it? Who knows? But it was like, labels can be frustrating. And, Ashton Kutcher was like, well said, Molly, and whatever. So yeah, it was cool. I don't know, again, how many of them were seeing it and sharing it themselves, or how many of it was their team, but it was amazing to have that much support from people who, for whom that message really resonated.
That is amazing. I love that story so much. And part of the reason that I had you tell that story is I think it really well explains your mission and what you're all about at Girls Gone Strong. So how do you take that message and the general umbrella of body positivity and everything that I said in the beginning, how do you actually help people come to that mindset, adopt that mindset? Seeing a Facebook post or an Instagram post can be inspiring and motivating. And in my experience, it doesn't lead to transformation. So how are you actually leading people to transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one thing that I want to clear up before we dive into this is this misconception of body positivity. So the idea that the body positive movement was actually started to help people who live in marginalized bodies increase representation and basically fight for justice, essentially. So women of color, people in much larger bodies, LGBTQ people, like this idea that people who are not typically seen in mainstream media not only get more representation, but also get better access to clothing, access to, things like, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, access to increased clothing, access to spaces where they feel safe, less discrimination, less harassment, less abuse, less medical stigma, like all these kinds of things. So the body positivity movement was actually started to help increase access and representation for people in marginalized bodies. It has been co-opted a bit by fit, white, blonde women who maybe feel like they have 5 or 10 pounds to lose, right? So people think that body positivity is like, oh, I'm comfortable with the way that my body looks. And so that is feeling positively about your body, but it is not necessarily the body positive movement. I didn't really know that. Yeah, I didn't really know that in the beginning. And I started kind of my self-love journey to feel more comfortable in my body probably around 2012. So it wasn't like I saw that movement and decided I was going to try to take it over. It was just, I started talking about the way that the way that I felt about my body and kind of my own personal journey. And it started to get labeled as such. So when I started taking pictures of my cellulite or my belly rolls or whatever, people were like, oh, I love this. It's so body positive. So when we say body positivity at Girls Gone Strong, we're talking about representation. We're talking about, making sure that people feel welcome and safe and included, and that Girls Gone Strong is for them, and that they know that they're not going to experience discrimination, harassment, abuse, et cetera, that they're going to feel seen and heard by our stuff. So it's slightly different. Mm-hmm. So if we want to talk about people improving their body image and feeling more comfortable in their bodies, I can absolutely dive into that
Yes, please do.
Cool. Yeah. So I started my own kind of journey, like I said, towards feeling more comfortable in my body in 2012. So if I can rewind a little bit, I got interested in fitness in 2004. I hired a personal trainer, worked with him for a little while, but I was a broke college student, so I couldn't afford to work with him for very long. About 8 months later, I started dating a trainer at the gym, which is much more economical. And
yes. Wait, hold on. Did you know you were going to get some free personal training sessions? Like what came first?
No. I liked him. Okay. He was a hot trainer at the gym. And so he was interested in bodybuilding and powerlifting. So I got thrust into this world of intense exercise pretty quickly. 2005, competed in my first powerlifting meet, did figure, which for people listening is kind of like in between bikini and physique. And then did figure for 3 years. And after every figure competition, I would rebound really badly and gain a significant amount of weight back. After my last competition in 2008, something was really off. I was gaining a lot of weight. I was very physically depressed. So I wasn't experiencing necessarily that much emotional depression, but physically I felt like I couldn't even get up off the couch to get a glass of water. And I went to the doctor and I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid disease, PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I had some adrenal issues. So there was a feedback loop issue between my brain and my adrenals. And I was 24, and all of a sudden, this 2009, everything, like for the last 5 years, I had been able to manipulate and just do whatever I wanted with my body. It's like, oh, I want to lean out a little bit more. I'll adjust my calories down and my carbs down a little bit. Oh, I want to, hit these, PRs in the gym or whatever. Here's how I'm going to adjust my training. And all of a sudden, my body felt completely out of my control. And I'd been getting so much praise for the last 5 years for like, oh, you look so amazing. What are you doing? Oh, you're so ripped and this kind of stuff. And I was like, who am I if I'm not the really lean, fit girl anymore? And so at that point, I was like, oh, I've got it. If I can't be the really lean girl, I'm going to be the really strong girl. And so I decided to go back to powerlifting. So I competed again in 2009. Did that for a little while, found out I wasn't getting a lot stronger, started working with some coaches who helped me. They said I had basically built a big house of strength on a teeny tiny foundation. So they kind of helped me circle back around and build the foundation. Everything was going well until the end of 2011, beginning in 2012. And then January 4th, 2012, my dad died unexpectedly. I found out he was sick on a Saturday and he died on a Tuesday night.
Wow.
And,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
Pneumonia. So he's 64 years old. And that changed everything for me. And that year, 2012, I had felt like I had gotten my body kind of back under control with my health and my strength and everything. And then 2012, I lost my dad, injured my back in the gym. So started having chronic back pain. And then left a 6-year relationship where we had a business and a home together. So as you can imagine, nutrition and exercise were not at the top of my to-do list that year. And so I ended up gaining some weight. And that at that point in time, I also had an in-person gym and I had Girls Gone Strong. And it was the end of 2012. I remember I was at a Girls Gone Strong meetup and I was working out with these women and they were doing weighted pull-ups and deadlifting 2.5 times their body weight. And I was on my back on the ground doing like dead bug and breathing exercises, trying to make my feel better. And I went to the bathroom and I saw a scale in there and I was like, oh, I wonder how much I weigh. And I stepped on the scale and my weight was back to where it had been in 2004 when I first started working out. And I had an absolute break and just started sobbing. And I was like, I can't lift. I'm not strong. I'm in pain. Like, who am I to own or be part of an organization like Girls Gone Strong? How can I help other people get results if I can't get them for myself? And so I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And I hired a nutrition coach and decided I wanted to try to get lean again. And I looked down a couple months later at my meal plan and it's like, whatever, 2 eggs, half a cup of oats, like with a slice of avocado, whatever. And my plan had shifted and I noticed that my slice of avocado was gone. And I'm just like looking at my plan and I just start to cry. And I'm like, is this what I want for my life? Like, do I want to be so ruled by the way that my body looks that somebody that lives 5 states away can look at bikini pictures of me and take a slice of avocado away from me? This is not what I want for my life. Man. Like, I have to get this under control. I have to get to a place where I feel good in my body, regardless of what anyone else thinks, regardless of how it looks, regardless of how much I can lift. Like, I want to feel good in my body in a way that no one can take that away from me. And no one and nothing can take that away from me. I want to have that true, deep, internal knowing of my worth. So that kind of kickstarted that journey in 2013. And we've been helping people do that. It's a very roundabout, long way to answer your question. We've been helping people do that at Girls Gone Strong ever since. So, we're an education platform. So we produce articles, we produce free courses, we produce training programs and certifications for health and fitness professionals. And we are really focused on making that information transformative. So a good mutual friend of ours who introduced us, Dr. John Berardi, has been, he's the king of how do you make information transformative? How do you take it from information to transformation to actually change people's lives? And so that's what we've been really focused on at Girls Gone Strong, is providing free resources like our articles, like our free 5-day courses. We have a closed Facebook group as well called GGS Strong Women Lift Each Other Up. And so it's a really amazing closed Facebook group, online community of like 31,000 women who are in there sharing. It's totally free. They're sharing, victories and struggles and just finding community of women like them. And so I'm happy to get into some of the really specific ways that we're able to help people transform their relationships with their body. But that's the way we do it, is through our free and paid education.
You have such a powerful story. One thing I want to kind of dive further into is the piece about, you said, I wanted to have this knowing of my worth, something like that. a quote that I found either, I don't know, on social media or somewhere, was something like, you said, what happens when the lights turn off? When you're not a college athlete, when you're not as lean as you once were, when you're not the strongest gal in the room anymore, do you know who you are? And then when you know that, what do you actually do with that? So you had just gone through this, 9-year process, and you found yourself where you felt like you were back to where you started, and you were starting on this pretty deep personal development journey. What are some of the ways that you actually came to know your worth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am a huge, huge fan of therapy. So I've been in therapy since 2008 straight. Like, I don't miss a month. I go once or twice a month, every month, and have been since 2008, which has just been integral for me. I think people are afraid to not only go to therapy, but definitely afraid to talk about it and say that they're in therapy. My partner, Casey, and I have been going to couples therapy since 6 weeks into our relationship.
Woot, woot.
Yeah, I told him from the very beginning, like, hey, I want to make sure that we have the tools and skills that we need as a couple to put everything we can into trying to make this work. So therapy has been really huge for me. I started going for other reasons. I was in a relationship at the time, and my boyfriend then was like, I feel like he's like, you struggle to like open up and be vulnerable with me. So the joke is that therapy worked too well because now I'm vulnerable on the internet.
Right.
I went from not even being able to be vulnerable with my boyfriend to being vulnerable on the internet.
So you're like, hey, therapist, my boyfriend wants to start charging me for PT sessions again. What do I do?
What do I do? Yeah. So
keep going.
So going to therapy has been really huge for me. And I think the first step for anyone in terms of making a change is awareness, right? If you don't know that it's happening, you can't do anything about it. So for me, it started becoming aware of my internal dialogue, of how I was speaking to myself. So over and over throughout the day. I mean, I remember I would literally just like pull my shirt up and like pinch my belly like randomly throughout the day, just to like I expected it to be different between like lunch and dinner or something. But I was constantly doing that to measure like, how lean am I? Like, is what I'm doing working? Like, how close am I to a 6-pack? Like, things like that. So becoming aware of the thoughts in my head, the behaviors that I was doing throughout the day, and then what I was making those things mean, right? Because even today in 2019, every once in a while I catch myself pulling my shirt up and kind of pinching my belly, but it no longer means anything about me, right? It no longer means that I'm not a good coach. It no longer means that my body's not good enough. It no longer means that I'm not worthy. So for me, awareness was first. Asking myself a series of questions about that, saying, do I agree with the idea that what I have to offer this world is the way that my body looks? Do I agree that if I have gained a bit of weight because I've had a really stressful year, that I'm no longer credible as a coach or trainer? Is this who I want to be in the world? Is this part of my value system? And literally just starting to kind of like uproot those ideas and kind of that conditioning from the bottom up. And even just asking myself those questions and realizing that it's a possibility to see things differently and have a different perspective was really powerful. And it's just like any other habit that we change. It's just like any other change we want to make in our life. We have to become aware, and then we have to see that there's a way to do it differently. And then it's literally just repetition. It is every time that you become aware that you're doing something that is not a vote in favor of who you want to become, you have to become aware of it, question it, and then to the best of your ability, do something differently. And so it's not like I was like, I'm going to change the way I feel about my body and just like instant, right? It's a habit and a skill, and something that you have to practice. And you literally have to like build new pathways in your brain to no longer connect the way that your body looks to your worth. So those were some really helpful things for me, was becoming aware of it, questioning it, realizing that there actually was a way to do it differently. Changing my environment was really important. I, started following people with a wide variety of like body shapes and sizes and races and ages and ability levels on social media. We see on average 4,000 to 10,000 images a day. And especially if you're in fitness, most of those images are going to be pretty homogenous, right? They're going to usually be young, white, lightly muscled, like, fit, healthy people, right? And again, this was back in 2012. So landscape's changed a little bit since then. But I started following people of like different shapes and sizes and ages and ability levels. And so, there's a media scholar named Jean Kilbourne who says we only process 8% of the images that we see consciously. So the other 92% that we're seeing is literally processing, like, this is what a fit body looks like. This is what a trainer looks like. This is what a good body looks like. This is what valuable looks like. This is what healthy looks like. And so when you kind of start pulling back a little bit, and you ensure that your environment is also supporting the changes that you want to make in your life, it's a really powerful catalyst to continue pushing you forward, because you're doing the awareness piece, you're doing the questioning piece, you're reframing the thoughts that you're having, and then you're also supporting it with your environment as well, which has been really powerful.
That is so crystal clear. I love it. Great answer. So I want to add a couple things here. One, I love the bit about questioning and getting to know your values and what you really think more. You used the word conditioning several times. My belief is that most of what we think in our heads they aren't actually our thoughts. We inherited them from society and from past generations. Our parents, growing up telling us how we should think about money or how we should think about men or women or food or whatever, and society doing the same. And so until we start to question the thoughts that we're having, they're just going to run our lives and we're just going to be on autopilot. I think that's a really powerful practice. A great book for people to check out is called The Work by Byron Katie. She gets really, really into this. And another thing is, one way to think about therapy, like even if you are someone you feel like you're just crushing it in life and, you might have some room for improvement in the way that you think about your body, but you're really on the fence about it. You might think therapy is for people that are either broken or weak or really, quote unquote, need help. Another way to think about it is kind of through the lens of a professional athlete. A professional athlete doesn't wait until he or she has a broken swing to get help with the swing, right? They're constantly working on getting better. So even if you feel like you're crushing it, you can still get better. And so me, just like you, Molly, I've been in therapy since I think 2014. Dee and I have seen relationship counselors. I've seen someone still to this day. And it's not because anything's broken. It's because I want to keep checking in on myself. I want to keep going deeper. And I want an objective third party to reflect to me how I'm being perceived, how I'm showing up in the world. And it has been possibly the most valuable tool for me in terms of personal development and really knowing myself. So I so appreciate you sharing all of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like over here nodding emphatically as you're talking, because it is so true. I felt like I didn't know my dad was going to die at 64, with 3 days notice, but I felt like having someone who already knew me and who already knew my story and who knew the best ways to support me, like having that person there when he died, that I could see. I mean, she texted me immediately because my dad was kind of a well-known figure in Kentucky. So as soon as he died, she saw it on the news. She texted me. She was like, I can have a spot for you tomorrow if you want to come in, and then again in 2016, when my picture went mega viral, it was so interesting because as it was happening, I was like, my entire life has prepared me for this moment, because I was clear enough on who I was and my worth that I didn't let the good things people were saying about me build me up, and I didn't let the negative things that people were saying about me tear me down. And I guess not letting them build me up is not entirely accurate, but what I didn't do is let it kind of lift me. So I was like riding so high that someone who said something negative could come in and like crash that down. Right. Sure. I appreciated the kindness of people's words. I appreciated the goodness, but when they're like, oh my gosh, you're so awesome. You have a beautiful body, you this, you that, like, you're so amazing. I didn't let that like be like, okay, yeah. I need that. I need people to say that stuff to me. I need that to keep coming. Like keep going, right? Because when people say nice things about you, like it feels good, right? But I
sure.
was aware enough to know what was happening, to know that like, okay, this is going to end, right? The virality is like virality and then it's over. What's news on January 1st or whatever is going to be like lining bird cages on January 10th. So I felt so prepared to not only accept the good stuff and be able to see that for what it was, but also not take the bad stuff. Like I know that what people were saying to me was only a reflection of what they were feeling inside themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were calling me a whore, when they were calling me an attention whore, when they were telling me I was fat, when they were telling me that I needed to lose 40 pounds and then I could talk, that I was an embarrassment to women. Like, I mean, it was just so intense. I'm just like, man, that person's hurting so bad, like they literally feel like I'm wearing a bikini at them. You know what I mean? Like they feel like it's an attack on them, and it's because of what they have going on inside them. So if I hadn't been going to therapy for that long, if I hadn't done that self-development work, that viral picture could have like just absolutely wrecked me for a long time.
Wow, that's powerful. Another thing I want to touch on is you talked about environment. So we could read all of the best books. We can have such an amazing mindset, but if we're in a poor environment, then it's all going to fall apart, right? And so what is our environment exactly?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say our environment is our physical environment. So where we live, what our living situation is. So I'm in Florida right now. I'm in an Airbnb. I'm a few minutes walk to the beach. And it's also who are we with, right? So the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, both in person and also online, since so much of our life is spent online now. I think it's the stuff that we're consuming on an everyday basis. So the stuff that we're listening to, the stuff that we're hearing, the podcast that we're listening to. If you're listening to this one, you made a great choice.
Yep.
The TV shows we're watching. So I think it's really just everything that we're kind of taking in with all of our senses throughout the day on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis.
Yeah, if you listen to people that actually you don't even have, like just walk around and try to guess who listens to major news channels, right? It's people that think the world is falling apart. We're in the worst time ever, when in fact, a lot of the stats show that we're in the safest time ever. We're in the best time to be alive in history, at least since hunter-gatherer days. But if you watch the major news channels that are built on promoting outrageous and clickbaity type of news, then of course you're going to believe that the world is falling apart. And so I love that you also talked about like really curating the content that you're consuming online, because it seems like there's nothing but a positive benefit, right? If it produces 1% of motivation or inspiration to transform our lives or to be better, then it must be good. And we don't take into account the negative effect that these things can and do have. That's amazing.
I think that's really powerful. And another great tip that I got from JB recently is this idea of like when you believe something. So in terms of like, I think a lot of people are also filling their brains and their lives and their, environment with the things that they already believe, which is really, Brene Brown in her recent book, I think it was Braving the Wilderness, the Braving the Wilderness, something about the courage to stand alone. So within the book, she talks about how people are now separating themselves into factions. So basically, we're spending significantly more time with people who already think exactly like we do. And I think she said in the 70s, only like 20% of people lived in counties where certain political elections were won by a landslide. And now like 75 or 80% of us live in counties where political elections are won by a landslide. So we're separating ourselves into these areas where only, people think like us. So one thing that JB has shared too, he's such a great thinker and he's so great at thinking about thinking. That whenever he gets really into a topic or he starts to find himself like really buying into something, he Googles like debunked. So it'll be like, whatever, like whatever the thing is, and he's like debunked myths, like take down or whatever, so that he can spend some time also immersing himself in the other perspective, which I think is really, really cool and an interesting way to make sure that, or to curate our environment in such a way that we are also taking the time to think about things or learn about things from somebody else's perspective as well.
Yeah, I like that. And he uses the term triangulation that I know the investor Ray Dalio is really big on, like just getting as many different perspectives as possible so you can make the most precise decision as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
So I want to talk about entrepreneurship, because the Girls Gone Strong Academy is giving so many women the opportunity to either coach online or be a coach in their current gyms. And the coaching industry in general is one of, if not the biggest opportunity in the world, I think, right now. And I want to kind of set this up. So it was probably 2014 when around the time I was starting my first business, I read the book Drive by Daniel Pink. Have you read that?
No, I haven't.
So he talks about human motivation and basically what we want out of our careers. And in the past, people would join a factory or join a government system, and they would stay in there for 30, 40, 50 years. They would get a pension and they would die, right? That does not work anymore. Not only do a lot of the pensions not exist, but millennials and maybe like a generation above millennials, we're switching things constantly. We want more autonomy. We want more freedom, etc. And so the three things that he found that human beings want boil down to: one, autonomy. We want the power to do things the way that we want to do them, when we want to do them. We want to do something that has purpose, right? We want to feel like it has meaning. And then the third was that we want the ability to strive towards mastery. So we want to learn, we want to get better at something. And I think that teaching people to be coaches, and especially allowing them to do it by starting their own businesses or doing it online, it encapsulates all three of those at once, which is incredible. It's such a big opportunity. So before we get into like exactly what that is, I think your entrepreneurial spirit is really well encapsulated in your story about taking a trip to Uruguay in 2014. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you real quickly, I've been an entrepreneur since basically as long as I can remember. So my family didn't have a lot of money growing up. My dad was an unsuccessful politician. And the first time he borrowed money from me, I was 7 years old. And he asked if he could borrow $20. And I was like, yeah, you can borrow it, Dad. But if you have it and I don't, what if I wanted to buy something with it? Well, then I should get something for you having my money. And he's like, baby, what you're talking about is called interest.
Yes.
And I'd be happy to pay you. So I started loaning money to my dad for interest when I was 7 years old.
That's amazing.
I had friendship bracelet businesses and babysitting things, and started my first actual business, co-founded it with a former partner of mine in like 2006.
Okay.
So I've done 4 different businesses now. First one failed. Second one, I sold for a small profit. Third one I walked away from. Fourth one is Girls Gone Strong. So I have been in the game for a long time. And 2014, so let's see, Girls Gone Strong have been around for about three and a half years at that point. My partner Casey and I had started dating in 2013. He is an entrepreneur as well. So he owns a brick and mortar sleep specialty shop and right outside Lexington, Kentucky. And so, but he didn't know anything about the online game, right? So we start dating and he's like, hold on a second. Why are all these people following you on Facebook? Like, what is Girls Gone Strong? Like, how are you monetizing it? And he was kind of wanting to dig into it a little bit. And I'm like, I don't know a lot about it, but I know some people who do. And at that point in time, I had sold my gym. I was working my tail off. My hair was actually falling out from stress,
Wow.
which was really intense. I also, again, it's a symptom of Hashimoto's and PCOS, but it was really bad at that point in time. And so Casey's like, okay, we're not going to stay holed up in this like crappy townhouse in Lexington, Kentucky for the whole winter, just working our tails off. Let's go somewhere warm for a little while. And I was like, okay, let's find a place. I know this guy, John Goodman. I've met him once. He does that. He travels for the winter. So let's maybe hop on a call with him and see if he can tell us how we can go somewhere nice for not $1 million. And so we hop on a call with John, and he's talking to me, and he's like, well, Allison, his girlfriend at the time, and I are going to be in Uruguay for, January and February if y'all want to come. And we're like, okay, cool. And 20 minutes later, we had booked a ticket to Uruguay, and we sent it to him, and he's like, did I say Uruguay? I meant Paraguay. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm just messing with you. Yes. He's like, I'm just messing with you. And he's like, we're not sure if we're going. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm just messing with you. We're going. It's cool. And so we went to Uruguay, and so Jonathan Goodman, for anybody that doesn't know him, runs the Personal Trainer Development Center and his online trainer academy. And so he had been in the business for a while, and really smart guy. And so we ended up meeting he and his girlfriend, Allison, in Uruguay and living with them for 7 weeks. And literally, I had only met John once. Casey had never met either of them. I had never met Allison. And we committed to living with these people in South America where none of us spoke Spanish. We ended up living in an off-the-grid home that was a 25-minute walk for water, with no vehicle, hardly any internet. And we did that for 2 months, and became really close friends with them. And then when we traveled with them the next year, John's like, by the way, I didn't actually mean it when I invited you all on that trip. He's
That is
like,
hilarious.
He's like, over the years, I've invited no fewer than 50 people, just really casually.
Yeah.
And no one ever comes. And he's like, so I didn't really mean it when I invited you all. I was just trying to be nice. And like, I didn't think you'd actually come. And he's like, not only did you show up, he's like, you wrecked our trip. He's like, we had all these other plans of things that we were going to do. And then when you went and bought your tickets, he's like, we had to rearrange our whole trip. So, but at that point it was like, cool. Like, Jonathan's really smart. We want to spend time, with other people who are really smart, who understand our industry and do what we do, and be intentional about the community that we're building and the people we're surrounding ourselves with, and live somewhere really cool. And so, that has been a kind of a theme in my life and my entrepreneurial journey, is just like, cool, let's do it, and we'll figure it out later. So just saying yes to things. If something seems like it could be a good opportunity for me personally, if it could be good opportunity for Girls Gone Strong, I just say yes and then figure out the details later.
So the reason that I wanted you to share that is because becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own thing, or just making a change comes with a level of risk and fear. So what do you say to a woman that is thinking about starting their own online business? They're thinking about signing up with you, but they are afraid. They're afraid of the commitment. They're afraid to like change what they're doing. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So here's the thing. Things are going to go wrong in our life, and things aren't going to go well. And there are going to be so many things that are out of our control. So things can either go wrong and be difficult while you're striving for something that you really want to do, or they can go wrong and be difficult while you're just kind of going through the motions and doing the things that you're quote unquote supposed to do.
Amen.
Right. So it's like, stuff's going to happen regardless. Things are going to be scary. You could lose your job tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, someone you care about could get sick. Like, all of those things can happen. There is no certainty in life. And so I think that understanding that, and again, building the emotional resilience and the self-trust to be able to know that you can handle whatever comes at you, is really powerful. And I think it starts by taking small steps. Again, like anything else. I know that's mind blowing, right? Everything starts by just, typically for most people, doing something small and building some self-trust that they can handle it. I think the most important thing is like, shit's going to go wrong. Life's going to be difficult. Challenges are going to be thrown your way. And you can either, experience those while you're doing what you want to do, or experience them living the life that other people have told you you're supposed to have.
I want to piggyback on that and speak to anyone listening that you're interested in signing up with Girls Gone Strong, or you're just in a career that you don't love and you're thinking about, trying something else. You're thinking about switching entirely. I would love for you to Google Tim Ferris fear setting exercise. And if you don't have the time to do that, basically take 5 minutes and write down all of the worst case scenario options that could happen if you make this change. Everything you can think of, worst case scenario. Then write out how likely that is to actually happen. Third, write out a very detailed plan of how you could get back to exactly where you are now if those worst case scenario things happen. And if you're dead, I get it. You're not getting back to where you are now. But I've done this a few times, including when I went from running a brick and mortar gym to going full into this company, Brute Strength, 4 years ago. And it really, really helped me. This exercise does not get rid of risk, but it can help you go into this change and this transition with a little more confidence so that you can actually make the best decisions possible. And so ultimately you don't get paralyzed by fear and stay in the rat race like 99% of people out there. So anyway, go and do that.
I love that too. Because it also helps people kind of get rid of the unknown, right? The unknown for a lot of people is scarier than the known, even if the known is really bad. Mm-hmm. So I think I love that exercise and perspective as well. I hadn't heard about all 3 steps, but I really love that because it helps people see like, okay, yeah, that would be really hard. That would suck. And also, here's how I could figure it out. Here's how I could come back. Here are the things within my control that I can do to make this better. And I love this. I love that there's like a cute little like flowchart meme thing where it's like, okay, so something bad happens, like, or you're worried about something bad that can happen. Can you do anything about it? No, then don't worry. Can you do something about it? Yes, then don't worry. And it's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Like that makes so much. It like makes so much sense to think about it that way. So I love that because it helps people, again, get over the fear of the unknown, see the known, and decide to pursue the thing that they want to pursue.
I saw this quote posted on, I think the Girls Gone Strong Instagram a while back. It said, "Don't wait until you're confident to show up. Show up until you're confident." I love that. How does that relate to your experience as a business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, don't wait until you're confident to show up until you're confident. I think that building confidence is something that true confidence, right? There's this like false confidence of like being overconfident and thinking that you're awesome and not really having a deep understanding. I think that's kind of like, when I was a year or 2 into health and fitness, I felt like I knew everything, right? And now that I'm 16 years in, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So I know a good amount about this really little, like segment of things, right? And then there's so much more that we don't know. So I think this idea of show up until you're confident is just making the decision to do things that are a little bit scary or uncomfortable or outside of your comfort zone and realizing that you can handle whatever happens, right? And so just doing that over and over again throughout your career builds that self-efficacy and self-trust that you can do the thing, whether you're 100% proficient in it or not. And then you're, see what happens, handle it, figure it out, and you feel a little bit more confident next time. So for me, I so much of my entrepreneurial journey was actually just like me being completely naive and audacious enough to believe that whatever I was going to do was going to work. And I didn't always know how, but I just had this deep belief that it was going to. And so for me, that kind of pushed me to keep doing and trying things. Like I look back at things that I did early in my career and they were so embarrassing. I mean, 2010, I got back on Facebook. I was off Facebook for a while. And when I started my brick and mortar gym, I decided to get back on there. And I was, surfing around on Facebook and I was like, ooh, Dan John. I want to be friends with Dan John. Friend.
Yes.
Ooh, Rachel Cosgrove. I want to be friends with Rachel Cosgrove. Friend. And I literally started just like being so naive, not realizing that I didn't know these people. It probably wasn't appropriate to friend them. If I was going to, I should have at least sent them a message first. And I just did it, right? I didn't even know enough to know that that was kind of embarrassing thing to do. So I inadvertently built this giant network of amazing health and fitness professionals and mentors that I look up to on Facebook simply because I didn't really know any better. So for me, it has been a combination of being naive, being audacious, believing it was going to work, and realizing that if it didn't, that I could handle it anyway. So I think that that stuff has been really big for me in terms of being willing to show up when I'm unsure what's going to happen, and realizing over time that I'm able to handle whatever happens, and also not being afraid to say I don't know. That has been huge. Like when we're not feeling confident in our abilities to show up, it's because we're afraid we're not going to know how to do something, or someone's going to ask us a question we don't know the answer to. And I find it so powerful just to be like, you know what, I don't have any experience with that. Like, I'm not the expert in that. Or like, hey, I've never done this before. I could use some help and guidance on this. I think people would much rather hear you say that you don't know how to do something than have you try to fake and pretend like you have all the answers. I think it's such a human thing just to open up and be vulnerable and be like, I don't know. I've always appreciated that in people I look up to. So I think that's an important part of it as well. It's like, you don't have to have it all figured out just to show up, because none of us really have it all figured out anyway.
Yeah. The insight about not having to feel confident in order to start something, I think is one of the most important for anyone that wants to accomplish anything big, right? Where anything that matters to us, unless we grew up around it or we grew up doing a lot of it, it's going to be difficult at first. And if we're going to be judged by other people, it's going to come with fear. So getting into the habit of just starting to do the things that we want to do without the confidence, knowing that through the learning process, through iteration, the confidence will come, will become more competent, leading to confidence. It will come every single time in time. We have to be able to do that as business owners, because we're not taught these things in school, right? And if you're creating something new, then you're forging a new path. And so you're constantly doing something that's outside of your comfort zone. So the faster you can just dive in and start doing the thing, and this is a key distinction, not just reading about the thing, but doing the thing, the faster you're going to actually feel confident.
And action typically brings clarity. So it's like, you don't know what to do, just do something. And then you'll quickly learn whether you're getting closer to what you want to do or further away. And when it comes to that fear of judgment, I was recently reading Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo, which is a fantastic book. And she's like, are you afraid of being judged? I have good news and bad news. The bad news is you're already being judged. The good news is you're already being judged. And so again, you're going to be judged regardless of what you do. So it's that same kind of thing. Like, things are going to happen to you that you have no control over. So they can happen while you're doing what you want or not what you want. So this fear of being judged, people are literally already judging you anyway. So they can judge you while you're, pursuing your passion and your dream, or they can judge you while you're not. So I think that's really important as well. But yeah, I love that. Taking a little bit of action, getting some clarity, building some competence, feeling a little bit more confident, taking more action, getting more clarity, building a little more confidence, getting more confident. And yeah, just knowing that you're not going to know how to do stuff, and you just have to figure it out.
Love that. So after spending a few days with you and Casey, I was very clear on how focused you guys are. And I may say even how much you grind. I saw it firsthand. And before the show, I had asked you a question about like what side interests you have and stuff like that. And basically your answer was none. And I was pretty taken aback, but you mentioned something about making trade-offs. So can you talk a little bit about how you view, I guess, like balance in life and making trade-offs?
Yeah, I love this question. So, I think this idea of quote unquote balance is a bit of a myth, right? I think that at any point, and if you try to achieve balance across all things in your life in terms of juggling priorities and stuff, you're always going to feel like you're not doing enough. If you can get really clear on where your focus is going to be for certain periods of time, I find that really valuable. So like for me, it's like exercise, nutrition, friends, family, personal relationship, work, sleep, right? Like I can give probably 3 of those my all at any point in time. And people can choose whatever kind of buckets they want to put them in, but I can be really serious and committed and focused on probably 3 of those things at any given time. So that's kind of like from a more micro level, how I think about how I spend my time. So I'm like, hey, I've got a busy month with work. Casey and I haven't been putting as much time into our relationship as we want to, and my sleep has been not great. So like, I'm going to spend this month really focused on getting enough rest, working on the business and focusing on my relationship with Casey. And I can switch my focus back to like a more intense exercise program or spending more time with my friends or my family, after this kind of period of time is over. So I think the way JB talks about it is like front burner and back burner stuff. So you can only have so much stuff on the front burner at once. So you kind of have to trade them in and out. So on a more like micro daily, weekly, monthly level, that's kind of how I look at quote unquote balance, or figuring out what my priorities are going to be at any point in time. And that way, when I'm in it, I'm really in it. Like when I go on vacation with my family for a week, like I'm in it with my family because they are my priority during that time. So I get really good quality time with them. I might spend an hour a day at my computer, getting a little bit of stuff done, but for the most part, I'm with them. From a more macro level, for the last 8.5 years, my biggest priority has been Girls Gone Strong. And it is because I believe that the work that we're doing outside or at Girls Gone Strong has to exist in the world. It feels like it has to live outside of my body or I will shrivel up and die. Like literally, that's how I feel about it. And I feel incredibly lucky to do something that is so meaningful to me. And I think that anyone who's going to do something really great probably has to have periods of their life where they don't have a lot of balance, whether they're a professional athlete or they're running a company or they're, doing research on something that's going to change the world. I think there are going to be periods of time in that person's life where their work takes precedence over most everything else. And so for me, I am aware that that's happening at Girls Gone Strong right now. I'm aware that that is not a balanced life to live. I'm aware of the trade-offs that I'm making for that. I've made some trade-offs in my health. I've made some trade-offs in some personal relationships. I've made trade-offs. I spend less time with my family than I would really like to. But for me, it feels like this is my calling. This is a vocation, and that the work that we do at Girls Gone Strong has to be done because it's going to change the world. And so it is not how I want to live my life forever. I want to be really mindful of that. I think it's easy to fall into that trap of just never getting out of it. I'm going to be very intentional and have started to be more intentional. So what you call a grind is what we call like relaxed, right? Like we were grinding, quote unquote, way harder than that for a really long time. And so we've, the fact that we take walks on the beach and get to the gym on a regular basis and can spend more time with friends and family. And the last few years is actually way less work than what we were doing before that. So I want to be it's getting better, and I want to be really intentional about it continuing to get better. But I have been very conscious in making these decisions. I'm not like, oh man, I don't get to see my family as much as I want. It's like, hey, I don't get to see my family as much as I want. And that's hard. And it's also a really conscious choice that I'm making. And they understand it. They know that it's not because I don't love them or not because I don't want to spend time with them, but they know that this is where I'm focusing a lot of my time right now. And that, when I'm with them and spending time with them, it's because I really deeply want to be there and connect with them and spend time. So for me, it's just about, I don't think there's any wrong decision about how people want to spend their time or their life. Every day that we spend time doing something, we're literally trading a piece of our life for that. I don't think there's a wrong decision about how people want to do it. I think the important thing is not fooling yourself about what you're doing and being really aware of the trade-offs of prioritizing certain things over another.
I think the only wrong way to do it is if you're doing things solely for other people, like in terms of what you think you should be doing rather than what you want to be doing. And so what I really respect about you is you're crystal clear about what you value, what matters to you at like right now, and your actions follow those values rather than just saying, I care about these 8 things and really believing that, but then all you're focused on is work, right? How do you deal with, or do you experience feelings of like, I should be doing this? For instance, like I feel, I wrote this in my journal today. I'm not very, like my physical activity level is pure maintenance. I'm not like on fire working towards a goal or working towards some big challenge. And I wrote how I feel like I'm like I should be doing something more. How do you experience that, and then how do you deal with that?
Like I don't deal with that as much as I used to. And again, I think it comes with becoming more clear on my priorities and what I want for myself. I call that shooting all over yourself, because I think so many of us do that. And it's like any other thought pattern that comes up, right? It's like, my body's not good enough. I'm, like I suck. I'm not, whatever. It's like you hear it and then you're like, oh, wait, that's that thing that's trying to make me feel bad for the decisions that I'm making, right? Or, hey, that's a really That's a great idea. Like, that's an interesting thought. Is there merit to that? Is there value to that? Is it really time for me to do something different? So similar story for me. I had chronic back pain from 2012 to 2014. My training program was really just focused on trying to get out of pain. Between 2014 and 2018, I was kind of on maintenance. A maintenance plan. And then 2018, I started getting that itch to just like do something again with my body. We had released some training programs at Girls Gone Strong. And I was like, I want to do those training programs. My goal is to get as jacked as possible. I want to get like as muscular and as jacked as I can. And so I did our training programs for a year.
Nice.
And I absolutely loved it. Like the focus and the plan and the commitment to doing it. And it was awesome. And I did that for about a year. And then I was like, cool, I'm ready to not be as obsessed with my training, you know what I mean? Again, for a while, like I've gained some muscle, I've gotten jacked, you know, I feel good about this. That was really fun. I'm ready to go back to something that's a little bit less intense. So, yeah, those ideas come and thoughts come into my head at times. Same thing with like my family and stuff. My family in particular likes to spend a lot of time together. And so I have to set boundaries for them and work to say like, hey, like I can't give as much time to the family as what's considered normal in my family, or as much effort or as much whatever. But it's not because I don't love you guys. It's just because of where I am in my life. And so I have to set boundaries about that. And it took a long while because I felt really badly about them for a long time. And it took practice to say like, hey, no, there's nothing wrong with this. This is, you know, this is how I want to live my life and it's my life. And I'm going to set these clear boundaries with these people and they can choose to still be in a relationship with me or not. So it has been, yes, I have dealt with those should feelings. I've learned to step back and instead of like having the should feeling and then just feeling crappy, I take the pause to respond instead of react and say, hey, is there merit to this thing that I'm feeling? Does something need to change in my life or my relationships or how I'm spending my time based on this feeling? Yes or no, and then make the decision and go from there.
Yeah, that's great advice. And when I really look at that thought within myself, it's purely coming from a place of wanting to look good to others or afraid, or like a fear of looking bad, right? A fear of not being seen as an athlete or somebody that's like in their physical domain a lot. I'm just not fired up about anything physically right now. And that's okay. That's the truth.
That's totally okay. And, you know, I get that every once in a while. So I've been working out at my gym back home in Kentucky off and on since I was 11. So I like went to the gym a little bit when I was younger, just like walking on the treadmill and stuff, and then got back into it more intensely when I was about 19. So I've been going to that gym off and on for 23 years and straight for like 16 years. And I do have to admit there's kind of like a new crop of like serious lifters in the gym or whatever. And it's like, you know, like I'm over there doing, you know, whatever exercises, Turkish get-ups and windmills and stuff, you know, and they're like smashing and deadlifting really heavy and stuff. And I get a little twinge of like, I used to do that 10 years ago. Those kids don't even know anything about, you know, whenever I get that little like, you know, like I used to be a serious lifter too. You know, but then I realized really quickly, like, that's not my priority anymore. And it's totally fine. And also the thing that I think is that I'm proudest of, is that I have been consistently in the gym for 16 years.
Hell yeah.
That's amazing. So many people go to the gym, push themselves really hard, get super burned out, and then stop for a long time. And like, if that's their jam, like that's cool. I'm not there to judge what they're choosing to do with their life or how they're spending their time or their fitness journey. But like, I am really freaking impressed with myself that I have consistently been showing up to the gym a minimum of 2 to 3 days a week for 16 freaking years. You know, I'm 35 years old. I'm still pretty strong. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm, you know, pretty muscular. I feel good most of the time. I don't really have pain anymore. And in my bone density, I don't want to brag, but my bone density is 3 standard deviations above the mean. You know, like,
amazing.
I feel pretty solid about those.
You're going to live a long, healthy life.
Yeah. And so I feel so good about that because it has that to me, that's what matters. I don't care if I'm in the gym, if I go to the gym today, I don't care if I go to the gym tomorrow. I care that I'm in the gym when I'm 40, when I'm 50, when I'm 60, when I'm 70. And that in the gym is in quotations, right? It's hiking, walking, biking, lifting. For me, lifting will always be part of what I do because I think it's such an important, especially so critical for women to maintain their bone mass and muscle mass and stuff as they age. But yeah, it's just like, that's when I get that twinge of like, well, I used to do that or whatever. I'm like, meh, like, am I still going to be here in another 16 years? Like, that's what I care about.
Badass. So we've been talking around the Academy a little bit. Can you give us some more details on what the Girls Gone Strong Academy actually is?
Yes, I would love to. So in 2011, when Girls Gone Strong started, we started with this idea that we were going to spread the gospel of strength training to other women. So there was very little information about women, and it certainly wasn't by women for women when Girls Gone Strong started. So we kind of started with that as our goal. And over time, as we matured in kind of our own fitness journeys and our own careers, we started covering a lot more topics. So we started covering cardio, nutrition, mental health, sexual health, pre and postnatal health, started covering everything connected to working with women, body image, disordered eating, all of these really critical topics that affect women's overall health and well-being. And we started realizing that so many health and fitness professionals were following us for that information because we had become such a trusted resource. So again, since its inception, we've worked with incredible health and fitness professionals, physiotherapy. Well, we say physiotherapists because we're global, but physical therapists, medical doctors, pre and postnatal fitness experts, doulas, midwives, strength coaches, registered dietitians. We have gotten the best of the best in terms of world-class experts to provide information for us at Girls Gone Strong. And the cool thing is most of the information that they provide, it's not like, oh, a registered dietitian wrote this article. It's like a registered dietitian maybe wrote the meat of it, and then it was reviewed by a PhD in molecular biology. It was reviewed by a strength coach. It was reviewed by, a medical doctor. It was reviewed by all these other people to make sure it is evidence-based and interdisciplinary and comprehensive and, again, body positive and prioritizes women's autonomy. So like we really try to make the information that we provide as comprehensive and interdisciplinary as possible. So we realized all these health and fitness professionals were following us for information, and they were getting a lot out of our articles that we were in our programs that we were releasing. But we started thinking about it. We're like, how can we serve them and increase our impact in this industry? And we're like, wow, there is no academy that is dedicated to providing comprehensive evidence-based interdisciplinary certifications for health and fitness professionals who work with women. And so, there might be like a continuing education course here that was written by one professional, right? Mm-hmm. Or something like that. But no one had created certifications for health and fitness professionals that covered these critical topics in that sort of way. So in 2017, we released our first certification, and it's our pre and postnatal coaching certification. And that comes with a 500-page textbook, 100-page workbook, mobile-friendly online portal. And shortly after that, the next year, we released our women's coaching specialist certification that covers women across their lifespan. So we've got two certifications, one that covers coaching, psychology, female anatomy and physiology, exercise, rest, recovery programming, and covers things like menstrual cycle, menopause, body image struggles, disordered eating, amenorrhea, osteoporosis, osteopenia, all of these important topics in one certification. And then we have the one that covers, and that's women across their lifespan. And then we have the one that covers women who are pregnant and postpartum, and that's coaching, psychology, anatomy and physiology, and how it changes during and after pregnancy, exercise, nutrition, postpartum recovery and rehab. And so we were just like, wow, these things don't actually exist. Like, that's so wild. And if you take a normal personal training certification, you might get 2 paragraphs about a woman's menstrual cycle or a page about training a woman during pregnancy. It's like, don't let her heart rate get over this amount, like, don't let her lie on her back. And it's like, that stuff's not even fully accurate. It's not wrong, but it's like, it's missing so much important context, right? Because it's not always correct. And so we were like, wow, this stuff doesn't exist. And it's high time somebody did something about it. So we created our academy. And the really incredible thing is so many people have come to Girls Gone Strong and experienced their own personal transformation. And kind of similar to what you were saying, they're like, I want to change my life. Like, I don't like this 9-to-5 job that I'm doing. I want to do something meaningful. I want to have more freedom. I want to live with purpose. I want to change people's lives. I want to strive towards mastery, those exact things that you were talking about. And so they end up enrolling in our certification and being able to actually change their career and become a coach or trainer who then gives the gift to women that we gave to them through our work at Girls Gone Strong. So it's this really beautiful cycle of, lifting women in our community up, changing their lives, them realizing that they want to be that person for someone else, becoming certified through our academy, and then having the opportunity to change other women's lives the way that we changed theirs.
Hell yeah. And then for those of you listening, you can find out more about that, as well as look into their free courses and the probably 1 million+ articles y'all have online at, I think it's Girls Gone Strong, right? Not The Girls Gone Strong?
Right. So our website is girlsgonestrong.com. We are in the process of redoing that right now. We're in the process of revamping our social media and our website. Maybe by the time this comes out, it'll be revamped. But the best 2 ways to stay in touch with what's going on in the Girls Gone Strong community is one of our closed Facebook groups. So we have one called Strong Women Lift Each Other Up. And that's for women who are fitness enthusiasts who are interested in learning more. We post articles. We've got experts in there. So we pay strength coaches, physiotherapists, PhDs, other experts to be in that group answering questions. And then that's called Strong Women Lift Each Other Up. You can search it on Facebook, or we can put it in the show notes. And then there's GGS Coaching and Training Women. And that is for any person, current or aspiring health and fitness professional. So chiropractor, physical therapist, coach, registered dietitian, licensed mental health professional, anybody who's in some type of helping professional who works with women or wants to. So that's GGS Coaching and Training Women. So as we're revamping our website and our social medias and stuff, those are the 2 best places people can find out more information about what we're doing at Girls Gone Strong.
Cool. And then Molly is at the Molly Galbraith. Am I saying it right? Or no, it's Galbraith. I added an extra I.
You caught yourself. Everybody does that. So, and it is probably Galbraith, but I think because we're from Kentucky, we say Galbraith. We're like Galbraith. Galbraith. So I'm at the Molly Galbraith on Instagram, and Girls Gone Strong is the Girls Gone Strong on Instagram. And I want to be clear, that group, the GGS Coaching and Training Women, you do not already have to be a health and fitness professional to be part of it. And same thing with our certifications. You don't already have to be a professional to take them. We've got a good amount of men who take certifications as well. And they're like, man, this made me a better husband, a better partner, a better father, a better friend. It just helps them start to understand things that women in their lives have gone through that they couldn't possibly understand because they haven't fully experienced it. Mm-hmm. And I think, most of them haven't taken the time to sit down and read a textbook about this is what these people in my life who I really love have gone through mentally, emotionally, physically. And so it's really cool. And then on the flip side, women say the same thing. They're like, this improved my relationships with my friends. This made me a better human. It made me more empathetic to other people. So yeah, it's really, really cool. It's fantastic for health and fitness professionals, and also for anyone who's even considering it. It works really well, and we've gotten great feedback from other folks as well.
Awesome. Molly, you are amazing. It's I really like the concept of Dharma. You're familiar with Dharma?
I've heard of it, but I can't.
It's like a Hindi term for vocation or calling. And it's such when you see someone living their Dharma, what they were born to do, it's just so attractive and compelling. And it's just, it's compelling to watch you speak about and hear you speak about what you're so passionate about and what you're doing. And it just makes me want to be a part of what you're doing. So thank you so much for everything you said today, for sharing your wisdom, and for who you are.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Michael. I'm so happy to be connected with you. I'm thrilled that we got to meet and hang out in person several months ago. Hopefully we'll get to do it again soon. And it is an honor and pleasure to be on your podcast. You are as great of an interviewer as JB said that you.
Nice. Thank you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Your journey towards better fitness continues. Head over to brutestrengthtraining.com to connect with Michael and his guests. Access links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive to podcast listeners. That's brutestrengthtraining.com.